for a discussion on building a deep talent bench, welcome our next moderator, Caitlyn Brazill of Scholas. She'll be joined by Faith Johnson and John Lullen.
Good morning, everyone. How we doing? Okay, I think we can do a better good morning. Let's solid. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Hi, I'm Caitlyn Brazill. I am from an organization called Scholas. Very quick show of hands. How many in the room have ever heard those words before? Oh, wow. Okay, this is a room I like. Great. So Scholas is a national nonprofit organization. We are proud to have been serving employers and learners here in Chicago for about 5 years, but we've been operating across the US for about 30. And what we do is try to create solutions for economic mobility through partnership with some of the most dynamic, some of the most visionary companies out there. And one of those companies is a company called TEKsystems that Scholas has been working with for more than a decade to create not only economic mobility for more than 1,300 people who have been hired through our partnerships together, but also creating real value both for TEKsystems and for their customers. So this is going to be a really fun conversation because I think we're able to talk about a couple of the pillars that we've all learned about through the Win-Win Solutions book, but also because these are really pragmatic and real solutions, and a couple of the most fascinating, fantastic people that I have the pleasure of working with. So, so let's jump into it. Let me just start by asking our panel here to introduce themselves, and then we'll kick into questions. Faith?
Sure, I'll start. Good morning. My name's Faith Johnson. I'm the Vice President of Global Human Resources for TEKsystems. How many of you have heard of TEKsystems? That's always another question. Great, thank you. First, I'll say I don't usually wear tennis shoes on stage, but I came straight from Midway to here, and my partner in crime over here, John, is a sneakerhead, so I left them on, so instead. So feeling a little unsure of myself in tennis shoes up here, but it'll be fine. So I've been with TEKsystems for 28 years, all in human resources. Have had the opportunity to grow my career there from human resources to talent acquisition, and what I believe is one of the most fascinating parts of my job in the last 10 years would be workforce development and corporate social responsibility. So excited to get to touch base with you all on that and share some of our journey, and then I'll be around, so look forward to making some connections as well.
John Lullen, I also work at TEKsystems, and because of what Faith said, I'm going to double down on the sneakers. When she came and sat next to me, I was grinning from ear to ear that she didn't take them off and put on heels. I was like, do not change your shoes. We're wearing our sneakers. I've been at TEKsystems for 12 years. I'm originally from Chicago. My whole family's from the South Side. Grew up in Florida, now live in Connecticut, just outside of New York City. I've done a lot in the 12 years that I've been at TEKsystems, from technical recruiting, account management, having the privilege of leading some of our business operations, but I can say that over the last 4 years, I've been doing work that truly fills my cup. So I have an opportunity to lead our external go-to-market team focused on inclusive hiring, workforce development, and supplier engagement and inclusion. And that's how the relationship with Scholas really started to evolve and explode, I'll say.
All right. Thanks, John. Thanks, Faith. And I'm sorry, I did change my shoes. But I appreciate the vulnerable leadership that we're kicking off with here, folks. This is good stuff. So let's jump in. Faith, talk to me about the workforce insights that you were looking at and the challenges that you were thinking about that really sparked the partnership that TEKsystems developed with Scholas.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of my most favorite things to talk about, so I apologize if somebody has to pull me off stage. I mean, I think the most important thing to point out first is TEKsystems is in the business of putting people to work and finding people jobs. So when we're not finding people jobs and we're leaving recs on the table, we're not winning. So we were, take it back to 2015, starting to see a lot of jobs in the IT space go unfilled. And it was not for the efforts of our recruiters, but really for a lack of talent pipeline. So we get insight through our marketing team into a lot of labor data. People were not entering the IT workforce at the same rate that they had in the past. Graduation rates were down at four-year schools. Skill set gaps were widening. And we were struggling at times to find opportunities for people or to find the people for the opportunities in even some of the simplest of skill sets around end user support. This is kind of pre-AI, so a lot of those answers weren't available to somebody by jumping into Copilot or whatever it might have been. But so we knew we had to find ways to bring new talent and help sustain those pipelines by getting creative. So I think for us, the job of putting people to work and the insight we had into kind of all verticals, all industries in IT, we were able to quickly recognize where the most significant gaps were, and then we started to look for partners to help us figure that out.
Just going to call out here, Faith, a couple of the pillars that I feel like we're hearing already, right? One is building a deep talent bench, right? Recognizing that you may need to actually build talent rather than just find it in the marketplace. And I think the other, which I was really delighted to see called out in the book, is looking at stars, right? So people who are skilled through alternative routes. And I think one of the real values to recognizing that there's a demand, there's a mismatch in the marketplace, was that it also created the motivation for creativity, right? Understanding, let's look beyond the talent pools that we've looked at in the past. So once this need was clear, right? Once you saw, okay, we've got gaps in the marketplace, we can pinpoint the geographies, the skill sets. How did you approach building a solution that was both actually inclusive and customized to your business needs?
So a couple of things I think stick out for me from the beginning. We looked internally, right? Was there a way for us to build an engine that was going to produce this talent? And the truth was, it just wasn't in our kind of bandwidth to be able to do so. So we knew through some organic relationships with Scholas in a couple cities that we had recruiters and salespeople having success. They were tapping into these classes, they were going to graduations, they were going to professional development days at Scholas campuses, and they were then turning opportunities around for these new graduates. So my partner Franklin Reed and I, he'll be with us later at the networking event, took a trip to the Bronx and wanted to see what it was all about for ourselves. So we went to Scholas's headquarters, and a company not to be named had a facility shared with Scholas where they were doing this themselves. They were actually putting training classes through with Scholas partners, with Scholas learners, Scholas instructors. And Franklin and I kind of turned the corner out of that area after we got the tour, and we're like, no, we can do this. We can do this better. We can do this with Scholas. So then we got really intentional. We sat down with Scholas. We looked at data. We looked at where the biggest skill set gaps were, where were the biggest areas around the country that we weren't filling jobs. And we got very intentional in working with Scholas to bring their model to our cities where we were struggling. So from 16 to 19, I guess, somewhere around there, we went with Scholas from East Coast to West Coast and helped them open over 10 brick and mortar locations in cities that they were interested in expanding to. We worked with them to customize curriculums. We tapped into our own IT technical consultants and asked them to help us look at curriculums and make sure they were what the customers needed. We asked our customers what they were looking for, where they were struggling the most, and then we turned around and brought that directly to Scholas, who together with us, they built the curriculums. They already knew where to get the students, so they were tapping into the communities already to find these stars who just didn't have that opportunity through some other means, whether it be a 4-year degree, a 2-year degree, and then they brought them into these programs. We in turn then met up with them during professional development days. So one of the, I think, most critical things about what Scholas does is not only were we building classes in end user support, Java, data center now, which John, I know, will talk about, AI, React, low voltage. They were also bringing professional development to these students. So every Friday, our teams were going out to the campuses. They were meeting with the Scholas students. They were helping them build LinkedIn profiles. They were helping them build their resume. They were talking to them about interviewing skills. So that collaborative partnership really just allowed us to be intentional about what our customers were asking for and meeting them where they were. And I think that evolution for us was huge in getting the buy-in from our leaders, because it was really our leaders who then needed to dedicate their teams locally: Chicago, Phoenix, Pittsburgh, Charlotte, Orlando. It was like, we need you. I can't come and get your people to buy into this and get them to start placing these students. They need to get into the classroom, meet these young people, sometimes not so young people who were reinventing themselves and looking for that next career step, and get them their next opportunity. I'll get those. And that worked out great, and then COVID hit, but I'll let us jump over.
And then COVID hit. Faith, I feel like, yeah, that's a pretty almost ominous landing point, but an important one. So maybe let me have you talk a little bit more there. So obviously, over almost a decade of working together, this partnership has evolved, and in a lot of ways, I think COVID was an inflection point, right? Both because it helped us shift focus from the importance of brick and mortar, which still matters today, but it actually gave us some new opportunities.
Agreed. I mean, here we are, March of 2020. We'll all, right, remind each other where we were, what kids' sport game you went to last, or whatever it was, right? And in 2019, we were having a really great year as a company. So to see that drop off for that period of time was tough. And wanting to keep people employed and keep opportunities growing, we recognized the need to have to shift to go hybrid or remote, and as we all did, right? But that's not something we had been doing at the time with Scholas. Everything was in the classroom, 5 days a week, anywhere from 8 to 18 weeks of class. That fourth day or that fifth day always being professional development. We were rooted in them being in person and learning. But we did it. We shifted. I think the biggest skill set that we saw that needed the shift in that year was, in those couple of years, was Java. Suddenly, Java opportunities were opening up all over the country, and they could be remote. So it was, okay, hey, Scholas, what do we need to do? And we put our heads together, and we tapped into curriculums that we could run fully remote. So suddenly, forget geographic barriers, right? We didn't need somebody that could get a bus line from, out in the county in Baltimore into Baltimore City. We could start training people all over the country, and placing them anywhere with our customers for opportunities. So whereas COVID was a really tough time, and I think we all look back on it and we'll say there are certain things about COVID that changed us forever, I also think there were certain things about COVID that made our business stronger. And I think some of that was that ability to recognize that we could do things without being face-to-face. So that was huge.
I do think that was a really important moment, Faith. John, let me pull you into the conversation here. Right around that same time period was also when your team was created. So talk to us a little bit about your team, the work that you do for the business, but also how it intersects with this training partnership pathway.
Yeah, related to the team, I think I answered that when I was introducing myself about what the team does. So that team that I'm on was created post-COVID, and it was one of those moments for me where she mentioned our partner, Franklin Reed, that leads our global inclusion and diversity team within the organization and has for a very long time. I remember it was 2016, and I called him, and I said, I was focusing on business operations at that point. And I called him and I said, if there's ever an opportunity to partner with you, work for you, alongside you, and it's anything related to inclusion, workforce development, leadership, don't ask me any questions, just put my name in the hat. And here we are. So I don't know that I want to say that COVID was a blessing in disguise, but it presented us with some opportunities to strengthen the partnership. Faith did an amazing job of talking about what it is we do and how we collaborate. So I'm just going to give you some examples of how we actually put this into practice with some of our customers. First, there was one that allowed us to scale an existing program, which was the full stack Java program. We had a client, a Fortune 5 healthcare organization. We still have this organization as a client. We have been working with them for a very long time. They needed to scale their full stack software engineering program specific to Java, and it was all early careers. They needed to scale to 300 engineers. So because of the war for talent and the skill shortage, you're not just going out into the marketplace and finding 300 engineers. But when you look at two things, there was one program inside our organization. Externally, it's known as Hire, Train, Deploy. We call it Rising Talent. So essentially, this is giving folks the skills that they need, both professionally and technically, to thrive in their career journey. So we took that internal program and we married it with Scholas's classes that were hybrid and remote all across the country to help this organization build a workforce that was extremely diverse in background, perspective, experience, and thought. Gave these folks, again, not only the professional development, and it wasn't theory-based, I think that's the kicker. It was practical application, a classroom setting, even if it was remote. So it boosted that opportunity for the folks that were going into the program to not look at it as purely a boot camp, but a boot camp with a light at the end of the tunnel, because we positioned it to everyone that we recruited into the program as, hey, this is a training prerequisite, and if you graduate, you're going to work at this Fortune 5 healthcare organization. The client is going to be involved in this virtual setting with you. They're going to shadow you in the lab. They're going to talk on professional development Fridays. So it was a completely different scenario that a lot of folks in the market hadn't experienced before, and that's something that we still do to this day. And I know I mentioned the 300 engineers. That program allowed us to actually scale that class with Scholas across the country. So beyond this Fortune 5 healthcare organization, there were many other organizations that reaped the benefits of that model of a workforce upskilling program. The second story that I'll share is more innovative. It was a program that did not exist. Mike was talking about AI, as someone mentioned 13 seconds into the time here today. Whether we want to talk about the AI boom, the data center boom, that presents a skill shortage. And there are many hyperscalers, I won't say the names of the companies. You might have a subscription to some of them. You might be using one of their products right now. They have data centers all across the country. And many of these leaders, I have the privilege of meeting with these managing directors and these executives that are leading these data centers. And I ask them a lot of questions related to their workforce. And they'll say either, John, I don't know where to find people, or my team is very homogenous. And there's group think. Can you help me diversify, again, in all facets? We're talking about background, perspective, thought, and experience. So after hearing this conversation a couple of times and recognizing that there was a need for thousands of data center technicians from a level 1 perspective, I went back to Scholas actually and asked Caitlyn and her team, I said, hey, we don't have a data center program. Can we create one? Because I have the blessing from TEKsystems to put my name on the line to say we can go build this. Scholas, of course, said yes. So this started in 2022 in Northern Virginia, where we partnered again. Very large organization, you might have some subscriptions with them. We partnered with them to understand what their needs were, right? How do we take your current candidate profile and bring it down to maybe just technical acumen? What if we can give these folks a certification, no degree, nothing robust, but if we can arm them with the certification and real world experience and get them job ready, what would your thoughts be on that? To wrap this up, myself, the organization, and Scholas, we put our brains together and we developed the curriculum together for this data center technician role. So now it's a win-win-win, as someone said this morning at the breakfast, because you have the end client involved, you have TEKsystems, who would be the employer of record, involved, and you have our workforce development partner, Scholas, involved to build a new program. In that inaugural class in Northern Virginia for data center technicians, 87% of the folks that were in that program, they went to work at this one particular client. And since then, now we've helped over, I think, around 220 people, and this was since 2022, across Northern Virginia, Atlanta, Columbus, Ohio, and Phoenix, and various hyperscalers and data center operators have reaped the benefits of that program.
Love it, John. So obviously we have a couple of great examples here, right, of how this partnership is creating value for customers. Talk to me about ROI. We got a lot of businesses in this room who are trying to figure out, okay, I make the investment, how does this come back to me, and how does this help a company like TEKsystems where your customers drive value?
For sure. Well, I'm going to state, well, I shouldn't say it's obvious. It's obvious to me being in this industry, but when you build a workforce that is more blended in terms of experience, and you're hiring more folks that are early talent, there are financial benefits to that rather than just hiring folks that might come at a higher salary because they're more senior. And I want to define what early talent means for us because I know it varies in many organizations. For me, when I say early talent, because we focus in the technology industry, I'm talking about anyone that has never set foot in the technology industry. So I don't care if you've been skilled through an alternative route, if you're a career changer, this is your first time in technology. That's how we classify early talent. So there are financial benefits there, of course. I think the real ROI, there's three things that I'll hit on really, really quick. One is we are now increasing the credibility and the trust that we have with job seekers because we're putting them in this program, but we're there with them and we're focusing on talent advocacy and support. So it's a different model rather than, hey, I'm gonna get you some tech skills and I'm gonna hope that I get you a job. No, this program that I'm putting you in, this might be a prerequisite and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So think of this as just a part of your onboarding. That boosts the trust. It also increases client credibility because our clients know that they have a strategic partner that's in it with them to help them solve their challenges. And the biggest ROI, again, is creating opportunity for folks from the broadest range of backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences, and helping clients achieve their hiring goals, whatever they may be.
So, we're all immersed in the world of technology here, but really when it comes down to is humans, right? I think that your analysis of the ROI is really helpful, but I also know this partnership is about people. Tell me a story of one of the people who was actually affected by this partnership so far.
There's a young lady from Ethiopia, and when she was transitioning from Ethiopia to the States, she was in civil engineering, and she wanted to transition into technology. So she had an opportunity to partner with Scholas and gain her CompTIA A+ certification that would give her credentials to embark on a journey as a technician, a support personnel, what have you. Fast forward, after she graduated from the Scholas program, she worked on 2 consecutive TEKsystems contracts at 2 of our clients. Today, she's actually in a lead role, and she was able to increase her wages by 165%.
That's what we like to hear, John. All right, so we were asked to have a give and a get. Faith, John, what do you have to offer here?
I'll have one of each. So I think our give would be 2 things. Ask us questions and we'll answer them. And we have some of our colleagues from Chicago coming tonight to the networking reception. And they all love talking about Scholas and the opportunity that we've had to change lives through that partnership. So ask them questions. We've also been lucky enough to do a number of white papers and thought articles that are on my LinkedIn, John's LinkedIn, Caitlyn's LinkedIn, on our website. So they're all there for you to grab. And if you don't find what you're looking for, email one of us and we'll get it for you. My ask would be to rethink your talent pipelines. Whether you do it yourself or you find a partner, being intentional in not just buying talent, but building talent with the exact skills and culture and professional skills that you're looking for has been so rewarding for us, probably some of the most rewarding work that I've done in my human resources career. So I would encourage you to find that partner or think about how you can do it creatively yourself.
The give for me would be my time, because that was fast, and I feel like I was talking extremely fast, but I'll be here for the next 2 days, so open to any side conversations to slow down on those stories that I shared. The ask would be on the topic of workforce development, just thinking about if there are programs that exist today that are more theory-based, how can we make them more robust and focus on the practical application of the skills in a setting that makes folks more job ready, and then couple that with talent advocacy and support so folks know that there's more to it than just gaining the skills, but I actually have a support person or team with me to guide me on this career journey.
All right, and moderator's prerogative here. I'm gonna throw one more ask out to the audience. I think that this partnership is truly unique, and one of the reasons that it's unique, and probably shouldn't be, is that too often, I think folks in talent acquisition, talent development, really don't think about augmented talent and staffing solutions as part of their talent development strategy. And too often, when we're talking to companies, we're talking to folks who are creating a new creative solution and pilot, but but really not addressing the potential and the talented workforce that they have within their own buildings, already working on their projects, already involved in their systems. So I think that there is tremendous potential to widen our lens and think about how managed services providers, companies like TEKsystems, who are already working very closely with many of the corporations in this room, can really be part of that solution. So thank you so much, Faith and John, for your time.